There's a tiger on the loose in Baton Rouge, and it has its eye on SEC Gymnastics domination. But 11th-ranked LSU must vault their way over number 8 Florida first. Both teams have had an up-and-down season, but someone will celebrate today in the teeth of the Tigers' den. We welcome you to the Bayou in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, the Pete Maravich Assembly Center. We're at the midpoint of the SEC Gymnastics season. It's the number 8 Florida Gators and the number 11 LSU Tigers meeting in an SEC Gymnastics school meet. Bernie got there with you. Great to have you with us in Baton Rouge. Both these teams made it to the Super 6 final a year ago, and Dee Bro's team looking for an upset at home. And with more on today's meet, let's check in with Lori Strong-Ballard.
It's go time here at the Pete Maravich Center, and when you're talking about SEC Gymnastics and 6 of the 7 teams are ranked in the top 11, there is no letting up and every competition is close. Dating back to 1995, every dual meet between LSU and Florida has been decided by less than half a point. It's also midway through the season, the time of year that every team wants to start to peak and really hit those high scores across all 4 events. And unfortunately for both LSU and Florida, consistency has been an issue this year. They both feel they have not yet reached their full potential.
Not even close. This is a challenging year. I've never had a year quite like this just yet. It is, like I said, if we would go out and hit, we could score 197, and we just haven't really done that yet. And we haven't had everyone healthy. We haven't been able to put what we feel is our full lineup out yet. So we feel like we have quite a ways to go yet.
It's been kind of rough. You know, it's not been the consistent ride that we would like to see at this point. And we've also had to make some adjustments in and out of our lineup, which sometimes you're putting in a question mark and taking out someone that you're relatively sure of. So, you know, that creates a little bit of unsteadiness. But on the good side of that, if you're going to make some lemonade with that, it does help you develop some depth, and that's, you know, one thing that we really do need to focus on right now and prepare ourselves down the road.
The great news for both the Tigers and the Gators is that they've had some individual athletes who've had incredible highlights this year. Just last week, Melanie Sinclair of Florida put up a perfect 10 on the bars. Wow, on her way to one of the highest all-around scores of her career. And LSU's Ashley Claire Kearney is currently ranked number 1 in the nation on the vault and can put up a perfect 10 there on any given day. Both LSU and Florida will start on their strongest event, but it won't be till that 4th and final rotation when they meet their nemesis. For Florida, it's the beam, and for LSU, the floor. So this will be one tough fight from start to finish.
Rhonda Payne on the road in enemy territory. It'll be the Gators and the Tigers. SEC Gymnastics coming your way after this. We're getting set for rotation number 1 from Baton Rouge as the Gators take on the Tigers. It'll be LSU first up on vault. Ashley Claire Kearney warming up, and LSU trails only Utah and UCLA in the country on this apparatus, Lori.
This is their best event, and Ashley Claire Kearney is the top vaulter in the nation right now. And Susan Jackson, she's the defending national champion on vault. Head coach Dee Bro told me she's pleased with the way her assistant coach Bob Moore has developed these athletes and their vaults this year.
Gloria Johnson up first, the freshman from Baton Rouge. 4 consecutive season highs of 9.25 she's posted.
Doing Yurchenko layout full, great on the landing. Only a tiny movement of that right foot. Excellent job. Now the judges are looking for a straight angle in the body and the shoulders as they push off of the vaulting table. That will help them get enough height to complete 1.5 rotations and a full twist. And a great job on the landing.
And a collegiate best, 9.85. On the other side of the arena, Gators having some fun, and why not? They're the number 1 team in the country on the bars.
And there is Melanie Sinclair dancing. She scored a perfect 10 on the bars last week, as we mentioned earlier. The Gators have good difficulty and are talented enough to really key in on the minute details on this event, and that will certainly boost their score.
We'll see Amanda Castillo first. She's the Gators' 7-time returning All-American, the SEC floor champion a year ago, but she hasn't competed yet this season on floor because of injuries.
She's usually one of Florida's and the nation's top all-around athletes, but she's had bursitis in her ankle, and that has kept her out of both floor and vault this year, and she's been inconsistent on beam as well. But bars has been a strong event for her, and she's doing a great routine here. Two big release elements at the beginning of this routine. Just the dismount now. Good speed into the double layout. Nice height, nails the landing.
She's fired up.
She is one of the captains of this team, and they say that she's the competition captain because she is a huge leader out on the competition floor. Her energy is just contagious, and that is why head coach Rhonda Fain says that they need to get her competing on more events, and that will really boost this team.
And she has a season high 9.9. Susan Jackson, the 2008 NCAA vault champion, up next for LSU.
Oh, and she balks on her first attempt, but that's okay. A gymnast is allowed 3 attempts to go over the vault. You know, sometimes you can take a too small or too big step, and that can throw your rhythm off, and you don't want to be distracted when you're running down the vault runway. You know, I talked to her earlier about being the national champion on this event, and she said it was a little bit of a surprise because she's actually scared of the vaults. She also, in finals, had to do 2 different vaults, something that she was not training, so she was quite surprised that day that she could pull out a second vault, do a great job on both of them, and she became the national champion. And tonight's second attempt, excellent job, pulls out a beautiful Yurchenko full, nails the landing. Great comeback, both physically and mentally, after misstepping on her first vault, on her first attempt. She turns around, refocuses, and comes down the vault runway with a huge score as well.
Great score for Jackson, 9.9. When we come back, the #1 vaulter in the country. We are midway through rotation #1 back in Baton Rouge, Florida LSU. And one of the great stories for the Gators, Miranda Smith, just a junior transfer from UCLA. She thought that she was completely out of gymnastics, but here she is 18th in the NCAA right here on this apparatus.
Miranda has dealt with shin injuries and currently has a steel rod in her leg. She competed mostly bars last year for Florida when she came to them in January, and she stepped up big time this year on 3 events and may even compete in the all-around tonight. A little bit short on her shoot over to handstand, down to the low bar. A little short on that last handstand there as well. She has a big dismount, double front, half out, looks for the landing. Fantastic job on the landing.
Smith fired up, Castillo the first to greet her, and the Gators excited after this performance.
This is the same dismount that the Olympic champion Nastia Lukin does, but Miranda actually does it even better than her. Nice height, plenty of time to complete that half turn and see the landing for a stuck landing.
A collegiate best for Smith. And on the vault, Ashley Claire Kearney, the #1 vaulter in the country. And experience has made the vault a no-brainer.
I think it's definitely gotten easier for me as the years have gone on. Just Bob working with me on technique and sticking the landing, but it's definitely more natural for me. I don't really think about much, and that's probably what I need to do everywhere. But it definitely comes easier for me, so I love competing that event.
Ashley Claire Kearney.
Overthinking can definitely hurt on this event. Vault is such a quick event. Sometimes there's no time to think, and that repetition over and over in the gym makes it almost instinctive.
She's claimed 12 individual titles this season.
Super explosive. Take a look. Yurchenko full, a hop on the landing. She has so much power. She mentioned working on that technique, and that helps her get the landing. She needs to come off the table almost directly up, and that will stall her rotation. She overpowers it just slightly here, has to take a hop on the landing for a 1/10 deduction.
9.875, the score for Ashley Claire Kearney, so that gives LSU a 49.15 on the vault.
Overall, they were solid, and while still in the 49s, this is one of their lowest scores of the year. They gave away about 3 or 4 tenths on landings, but the freshman Gloria Johnson came through big time with a career-high score.
The Gators' Melanie Sinclair up next on the bars. A week ago against Kentucky, she was perfect.
This is the weirdest thing that's ever happened to me. I actually dreamt about the meet the night before. I always dream about meets the night before, and I actually dreamt that I got a 10 in my dream. And so I woke up confident, thinking that, you know, I felt good. My body felt good. Everything was just flowing so effortlessly. So I don't know, I felt like I could do it.
Positive thoughts and visualization is a huge part of this sport. And I think the only thing harder than getting a perfect 10 is getting 2 in a row. And, oh, big mistake right there. She catches her heel on her Hindorf release element. It's about a 2/10 deduction. Pretty good job on her Ginger release. Bail to handstand on the low bar. Back to my thought, I was talking about getting 2 in a row, because all of a sudden the expectations, not only on yourself, but from your teammates and your fans, go way up. Melanie's made a pretty big mistake in the middle of the bar team, but recovers very nicely. The rest of the routine was solid, clean, and a stuck landing on the dismount. Look at Melanie's left foot. She catches it on the bar. That's a 2/10 deduction. The timing of the release on that element is crucial. She came off just a little bit early.
A little bit of struggles for the number 2 bar worker in the country at 9.675, and the number 1 bar team of 48.975.
They were super solid in the middle, but Mel's heel hit, and Corey Hartung took several steps on her dismount. That cost him about 4/10, and it'll be interesting to see how they respond to not hitting their best event.
Rhonda Fain's team looking to regroup after 1 rotation in Baton Rouge. They trail the Tigers. One rotation of the books. The Gators move to the vault. The Tigers move in onto the bars. And let's check out the vault lineup for Rhonda Fain's squad. They're just behind LSU, currently 4th in the NCAA.
Once again this week, Florida is without their big scorer, Amanda Castillo, who's still not 100% because of that ankle injury. It'll be important for them not to get tight and hold back after the mistakes we saw on bars. Landings, as usual, will be key, and their anchor, Miranda Smith, has been their top scorer all year.
Nicole Ellis, the freshman up first. One thing she's been perfect at is in the classroom. She posted a 4.0 in her first semester.
Today, she's competing the Yurchenko full. Beautiful long body position in the air. You can see she's trying to cover up a few deductions that will be taken on that landing. See, she gets tremendous power and stretch into the round-off onto the springboard. It's a blind reach back onto the vaulting table, a full twist. She is fighting hard to cover up those landing deductions, trying to hold on to every 10th.
Ellis has scored 9.85, and LSU getting set, and Dee Bro's team to move to the bars.
This is a very talented and experienced bar lineup. No freshmen. Susan Jackson missed her release move just now in warm-up and will need to make a correction in competition. Dee said she's looking for consistency here.
Stacy Switkus, the sophomore from San Diego, will lead things off. Competed only in vault and bars as a freshman, but hit all 29 of her routines.
This year she's mainly been in that 9-7 range. This week in practice, Dee Bro said she increased the intensity and expectations on her athletes, said that not only do they have to hit routines, but they must be 9-8 or better. Oh, gorgeous routine, fighting for the landing. Excellent job.
She'll have a chance for her best score of the season on that routine.
I saw one major knee bend in this routine. All of her handstands were fantastic, and the dismount. It's way above the high bar. It's called a full in back out. Great difficulty. She really fights for the stuck landing.
And she has a season high on 9.875. Corey Hartung getting set on the vault. She's one of 8 Gators who have 10 or more all-around titles and really enjoys competing in all 4 events.
It's what I go out there and I want to do. I want to compete all around every meet. It's my goal. It's my dream to be a Gator and compete at all 4 events. I work hard in all 4 events, and I think like I'm missing something if I don't get to compete all 4 events. It's like I'm missing a part of the sport if I don't get to do all 4 events. So it really makes me happy, and I enjoy doing every event and just being out there and being a contender for an all-around title every meet.
All-arounders thrive on the momentum created by competing all 4 events, and they also love the challenge of consistency and trying to improve their score every week. Corey does a very different vault. It's a 1.5 twisting vault with a blind landing, a little bit squatty on the landing, takes the hop, 1/10 deduction there. Talk about consistency, she has scored 9.825 on every vault this year. The coaches know exactly what they'll get from this athlete. You can see there a little bit of a knee bend early on the vaulting table. It's a little bit flat and long, and that causes her to take the hop on the landing. And again, another 9.825.
Pretty good start for the Gators, and Corey Hartung on the vault. We will continue rotation 2 when we come back. Well, one thing you always know, things are pretty festive when you're down on the bayou, and a great night for gymnastics between Florida and LSU. We continue rotation 2. And Susan Jackson, the junior, she's coming off a season high 9-9 last week against Auburn. Not only did she win the bars, but she won the all-around title as well.
Susan has only missed one routine on bars this year. Now in warm-up though, she did miss her Jaeger release element. Coming up here, we'll see if she makes the adjustment. Great job, right on. You know, some athletes get rattled if they fall in warm-up. Others prefer to do it and get it out of the way so that they can make the adjustment and hit it in competition when it counts. Excellent job on her last handstand. Gaining some speed into the dismount, back in, full out. Amazing landing.
What a performance for LSU's Susan Jackson.
You know, Susan told us earlier that for the first time, gymnastics feels easy for her. It's almost robotic right now, and we often see and hear that by athletes in their junior year. They get to compete so often, and it just becomes that much easier.
And she improves a new season best, 9.925. Melanie Sinclair up next on the vault. Last year she tied for third in the all-around at the NCAA championships.
Also doing the Yurchenko layout full. Pretty good job. Just a tiny, tiny pike down on the landing and a tiny hop as well. She's a little bit shorter than some of the other athletes, so sometimes this vault doesn't look quite as big, but she is super consistent. You know exactly what you're going to get every time from Melanie Sinclair.
Sinclair's score a 9.85, so the Gators bounce back from their efforts on the bars with a 49.175 on the vault.
All 6 vaulters are in that 9-8 range. Overall, this is about what Florida's been scoring all year on the vault, but maybe not enough to pull ahead of LSU, who have been doing really strong on bars.
Here's the All-American Ashley Claire Kearney. Not only is she #1 in the country on the vault, but she's number 8 nationally on this apparatus, the bars.
So far, LSU has 4 strong scores, including a 9.925 we just saw from Susan Jackson. Take a look at this release element. Giant full into a sky-high Tkachev. Straddle back to handstand on the low bar, right back up to the high bar on her toe on up. Hits the handstand. So far, an exceptional routine. Just the dismount. Has to take a step on the landing, but the routine itself was amazing. The athletes are required to do at least 2 release elements. This is her first and her biggest release element. It's called a Tkachev, and she's 2 or 3 feet above the high bar. The dismount is nice, and you can see she just really wants to get that stuck landing. When you're just slightly off, then she has to take the step.
And for the second time this season, she scored a 9.9 or higher. And what a score for LSU, a 49.425 on the bars.
Stacey Schwittkis came through big time with a 9.875 to start this lineup off. That was a season high for her and a season high for this LSU team on bars. Nice finish by the stars, Jackson and Claire Kearney as well.
Halfway through, a great start for LSU after 2 rotations. Almost a half a point their lead over the #8 Gators. Getting set for rotation 3 in Baton Rouge, LSU moving their way to the beam, and this is where they have struggled.
Dee Dee Bro always says it's beam that wins or loses a competition. She has trained her team a little bit harder this week because LSU has not yet hit 6 routines this year. And it's midway through the season and time to shine. They have the lead heading into this apparatus, so maybe that will help relieve some pressure.
And the bright spot for him, Summer Hubbard, the junior from St. Petersburg. She won the beam title against Kentucky. She was the first Tiger to score at 9.9 on the beam this season.
And so far, LSU's first 2 up hit very nicely. So they're starting to build a little bit of momentum here. Concentrating before her tumble series. 2 back handsprings to a layout, solid into the lunge landing position. Summer is very aggressive in all of her gymnastics. She's very exact with her arms as well, and that will help on the balance beam. Switch side. Well done. Looking for another connection here. Front handspring into a sheep jump. The judges want to see the head drop back on that jump as well as the legs at head height. First leap to a straddle jump. Again, the judges are looking for a 180-degree split on all of those leaps and jumps. It's a requirement. At least one leap or jump must show that split. Solid routine so far, and the dismount, a front full, nails the landing. Third straight hit for the LSU Tigers.
Summer Hubbard continues to lead the way for LSU.
There's plenty of difficulty in the routine, including this tumble series, the 2 back handsprings to the layout. But the dismount had a little bit less difficulty in it, the front full, and that may hurt her chances of getting those high 9-9 scores. But overall, it was solid and clean and should score very well.
Yeah, she's just off a 9-9 at a 9.875. So a great start for LSU, and Rhonda Fain looking on as her team gets set to take the floor. Right now, they're currently second best in the NCAA.
And look, Florida made a last-minute change to their floor lineup. Amanda Castillo, the SEC floor champion, is in for the first time this year. She's been dealing with an ankle injury and replaces Elizabeth Malish, who tweaked her ankle today. Amanda told Rhonda last week that she was anxious and ready to get into the all-around, but the coaches needed to be smart and not put her in too early. Today, she will compete floor for the first time.
Corey Hartung will lead things off, coming off a career best on the floor. Just 3 weeks ago, she scored a 9.95 against Auburn.
Opens with a front tumbling pass, front double twist. Little bit of a direction problem there. Traveled slightly to the right. Last week, she struggled on this second tumbling pass, the triple full. She told us that she went for it too aggressively, too hard on the takeoff. Today, she's right on.
Last year, she advanced to the NCAA floor final, and twice she's won floor this year as a senior.
She's a twister in terms of her tumbling. She does a nice job on her choreography and dance, showing off what she does best, and that is the flexibility elements. She has a very unique style. Last tumbling pass, whip back, 2.5, no. She holds back and does the double twist. Usually we see her do a 2.5 twist in that final pass. Sometimes an athlete can feel a little bit fatigued, tired. Maybe they don't have the strength in their legs. She made a great decision there, went for the double. That should not affect her score in terms of the start value. She still will start from a 10, and it was clean, no deductions. This is a look at that middle tumbling pass that she struggled with last week. She was a little too aggressive on the takeoff and thrusted her shoulders backwards. Today, she did a great job of taking it up, stalling it out in order to complete all 3 twists.
For the third time in 5 tries, a 9.9 or better for Corey Hartung. And Samantha Engel getting set, the sophomore from Plano, Texas, for the beam. Lori, we've heard from Dee Bro that her team has struggled on the beams, and it seems like it's a theme pretty consistent throughout the SEC this season.
Beam is a tough event to compete. It's only 4 inches wide, and if you're off 1 inch, you're on the ground. That's a 5/10 deduction. If you're off an inch on floor, you take a step, maybe a 10th deduction. So mistakes are crucial on this event. Now, Sam hurt her ankle a couple weeks ago against Kentucky. She's had some problems getting everything back on floor, but she says it doesn't hurt her on the balance beam. That's good news for the Tigers. A handspring layout, solid.
For the most part, she competed only on bars and beam last year as a freshman.
Great job on her side, Sami. Good discipline on her landing position, keeping her knees bent. It's the required element, a full turn. The dismount, the front full. Looking for that solid landing, especially on a front full dismount that is a little bit simpler than some of the other big dismounts we see. This is a side summy. The athletes are required to show backward tumbling as well as forward and sideward tumbling, so she meets not only a requirement, but she also gets bonus points for difficulty there.
And Engel has a new season high, and it's almost a full 10th over her average. We'll continue from the Bayou right after this. Back in the capital city of Louisiana in the Pete Maravich Assembly Center tonight, SEC Gymnastics. It's the 8th ranked Florida Gators and Dee Dee Bro's 11th ranked LSU Tigers. And so far, she's got to be very happy with what she's seen on the beam.
LSU has been super solid on the beam so far, and you can see that extra effort. The fight and concentration is obvious in every routine so far.
This is Ashley Claire Kearney, 95 career title. She's approaching the century mark, 100 for her career. She's yet to pick up a win on the beam, however, this season.
Ashley fell in her series last time we saw her against Georgia a couple of weeks ago. That's coming up right here. Handspring, layout. Oh, and she chose to only do a single layout against Georgia. She did 2 layouts in a row and fell. Slightly watered down here. Maybe being a little bit conservative going up against Florida this week. Wanting to get those 6 hits for this team. We saw earlier, Corey Hartung watered down her floor routine slightly, and just like her, this should not affect her start value. She will still start from a 10, so maybe it was a good choice. She nailed it. And again, another conservative dismount for the Tigers, but another hit for them as well. They're on a roll.
They came in searching for consistency on the beam, and so far they've accomplished just that.
Let's take a look at that tumble series. Some athletes actually make the decision right there not to go for the second layout. Against Georgia, she did 2 layouts and fell. Here, she chose to go with a single layout. A little bit less in terms of bonus, but she nailed it.
And she matched her season high, 9.875. Miranda Smith, her first career floor title came the first meet of the season where she scored a 9.9 against Oklahoma.
Miranda has the tumbling to score big, but if she wants those 9.9, she really needs to execute her leaps and jumps really well, get after the positions, and of course the landings. Opening pass is impressive, a piked full in, well done.
Right now, Smith is 3rd best in the NCAA on the floor.
There's a look at a couple of her leaps and jumps. She's a little bit shy of that 180-degree split. She gets nice height, though. You see some forward tumbling, front full to a front layout. Another solid landing. Again, one of her twisting jumps, a split full. Looking to show that 180-degree split as well as completing 360 degrees in turn. Last tumbling pass, not a problem in terms of endurance. She's going hard, very powerful double pike. Okay, a strong routine.
Miranda Smith looking for her 2nd career floor title.
Opening pass is a piked full in. That's an E-level skill and gives her 2/10 of bonus in difficulty. Full twist in the first rotation. Second rotation is in the pike position. A little bit of separation in her legs.
Once again, she's matched her collegiate best in Baton Rouge, a 9.9 on the floor. Susan Jackson up next on the beam. She's dealing with the added responsibility of being the anchor.
I'm at the end of the lineup now, and last year I was at the beginning. I was number 1 last year, and now I'm the anchor, which is kind of a big change. I really liked going first because you just, get it over with, and you'd be done, and you could just sit back and relax. But this year I'm anchoring, so it's, you kind of have to wait around for the whole team to go, and if somebody falls, you're like, oh man, it just adds a lot more pressure to you. But I've been able to, handle the pressure, and I've made every routine so far, knock on wood.
It adds pressure, but it's also an honor to anchor a lineup. That means your coaches and your teammates have confidence in you that not only will you hit, but you'll put up the big score.
Well, she's scored a 9.8 or higher 4 out of her 5 routines this season.
Tumble series by handspring layout, 2 foot. Trying to hold on and minimize the wobble deduction. Maybe a 1/2 there. Switch leap, straddle jump. A little wild with her arms in the air on those leaps and jumps, but she pulled it back together by the landing. Again, another wobble on her front aerial. Of course, going last in the lineup also means you have plenty of times for those nerves to build and fester. Front tuck nails it. down the sidelines. Dee Bro, head coach, cheering her on as she heads into her dismount. We're going to see an increased difficulty level here. She does the double back. Nice job, nails the landing.
Dee Bro congratulating Susan Jackson after LSU hits on every beam routine.
6 in a row beam routines. That is outstanding considering the difficulty level in this routine from start with the back handspring layout 2 foot to the end with the dismount, the double back.
A 9.85, so LSU continues on a roll of 49.3 on the beam.
Fantastic job from start to finish. It looked like they were well prepared, well trained. They took one skill at a time and were aggressive. 49.3, that's a season high, a great score nationally as well.
And here is Amanda Castillo making her debut here in 2009 on the floor, the two-time defending SEC floor champion, the first skater to repeat since Melissa Miller in 1989.
She's been dealing with bursitis of the ankle, and that's why she hasn't been able to compete on both floor and vault this year. Amanda said that it's more a pain issue than an injury issue. Opening with a whip to a double back. Now, Florida already has 5 hits, so they have 5 great scores already. So this is more of an opportunity for Amanda to get some competition experience here, get back in that lineup again. Little tumbling pass, forward, front layout to a front layout. Because of the injury, she's probably not doing her full difficulty. Also a concern will be her endurance. That is one of the toughest things for these athletes to get back after they haven't been able to train or compete on this apparatus. The routine is 1.5 minutes long, and it's pretty much a full-out sprint. A deep breath before a final tumbling pass. Down up back handspring, double pike, comes in a little short. 4-5 steps out on the landing. Finishes on time with the music somehow, and somehow stays on her feet.
Could her injury affect this final pass?
Well, I mentioned earlier the importance of endurance on floor, so that could be an issue here. She simply didn't have the leg strength to get through this double pike. Or it could be just a matter of not having the repetitions under your belt, so not sure exactly how hard to go for it.
Not the score the defending SEC floor champion was looking at a 9.575, but great to be out there as the Gators bounce back on the floor with a 49.325.
First 5 hit and did a fantastic job. That took the pressure off Amanda to get one under her belt. But remember, Florida still has beam, LSU floor. They have their work cut out for them.
And we'll have rotation 4 when we come back. We're getting set for the 4th and final rotation here at the Pete Maravich Assembly Center, and plenty of fun and gifts are falling from the sky.
It looks like fans are getting a little more than great gymnastics here today.
And the one gift that the Florida Gators wish they could get is the health restored for Rebecca Zeiser. She has been missed dearly on this apparatus.
She was their leadoff competitor, and this has been a shaky event for Florida this year. Rhonda told us that it's been difficult to really solidify her lineup, especially finding the person to anchor this lineup, someone who will be consistent and confident. Now you can see here Amanda Castillo is out of the lineup this week. She has struggled with consistency over the last couple weeks because of that ankle injury, but Miranda Smith will compete for the first time collegiately on the beam.
The Gators have counted a fall on the beam in their last 3 dual meets. This is Courtney Gladys, the junior from Winter Gardens, Florida.
Combo series, 2 back handsprings, layout, solid and pretty aggressive.
She led the Gators in her first collegiate appearance on the beam with a 9.875, but fell off in her last appearance.
Cat leap to a side aerial, again, a solid series there. Bernie, it's interesting to note they have left the board on the landing mat behind the balance beam. They are required to remove the board at an appropriate time right after the mount, or there is a mandatory 3/10 neutral deduction. That means after the score is put up, they must deduct 3/10 off this score. Oh, great dismount and a great routine. Unfortunately, that 3/10 will be a big hit to this Florida score.
9
Here's a look at her tumble series. She was aggressive, nicely pushing down the beam. Her legs are pretty tight. 2 back handsprings to the layout and aggressively into the lunge position.
And the 3/10 deduction reflected in the score 9.525.
It's one of those rules intended to keep the athletes safe. They don't want to fall off and possibly land on that board.
LSU looking to finish up a solid meet here on the floor. They have almost a half a point lead over Florida and on pace for a season best.
But this is an event that LSU struggled with last week. Sam Engel has been out of the lineup since they competed against Georgia a couple of weeks ago. She scored a 9.8 at that meet and then injured her ankle the next week.
LSU started strong. Kayla Rogers a 9.9, but Sabrina Francischelli a 9.475. So a little bit of pressure here for Engel.
See assistant coach Bob Moore standing in the corner there. She performs her double Arabian. Well done. Second tumbling pass. Round up like handspring. 2.5 twist, lands a little bit sideways. Looks like she may have slightly tweaked that ankle again. Doing a good job on her leaps and jumps.
This is her first meet back competing on the floor after taking the last 2 off. Doing some deep breathing here, trying to get some oxygen to her muscles. When your ankle is sore, the last thing you need to do is come in short on a tumbling pass. Front layout, front full. Aye.
Not enough rotation. Her feet slide from beneath her. A 5/10 deduction there. Tough break for Sam and this LSU team.
Engel struggling in her return to the floor.
Yeah, you could see her limping off. The landing on her second tumbling pass, the 2.5 twist, was a little bit funny. You could see that she's leaning to the right when she lands. That puts a lot of pressure on that ankle. You could see a look of concern on her face at that point of the routine.
9.175, the score for Samantha Engel. And the SEC beam champion, Corey Hartung, up next on the beam. Last week, she got her first win on this apparatus.
The last 2 Florida routines had long judging delays. Courtney's routine had that discussion about the 3/10 board deduction, and Melanie Sinclair, they had discussion about her start values, so Corey's had to wait a long time. If you notice, they quickly pulled the board after her mount.
I can't blame them.
Certainly a mistake that you're glad that you make maybe at a dual meet versus at the SEC championships or the national championships later on. A learning experience for this team. Beautiful job on her scale, and she raises up onto toe, showing off her flexibility.
So far, it's been a better performance for Florida, who's had their struggles here on the beam.
Corey told us earlier that she enjoys competing on the beam because it's slow and precise, and she can show off her flexibility. Unique elements like this, they call the helicopter. Excellent job on a required full turn. You can see that she has great basics and dance training in that skill. Just the dismount, the routine's been beautiful. Great concentration from start to finish. She had to stand and wait so long before this beam routine. Fantastic job.
Back.
One leaper jump that shows that 180-degree split, but you could see in her switch leap there, she was well past that.
And back-to-back 9.9s for Corey Hartung. And the Florida Gators have been solid thus far on the beam. Can they catch LSU? The final routines when we come back. Getting set for the final routines in rotation number 4, LSU with a slight advantage over the Florida Gators. Trying to get a victory at home, and Susan Jackson, a first-team All-American on floor, is up next.
LSU's in a great position here. They have the lead, and their 2 best floor workers still to come. Susan Jackson and then Ashley Claire Kearney.
Susan Jackson had a career high 9.975 a season ago.
Front double twist into a front pike. Great difficulty and a connection bonus as well. She is so powerful and aggressive and shows off some unique style there with her back head spring.
That's
the
my
crowd
favorite
just loves
move.
it, yeah. You can see the strength and power that comes from her legs. Strong run into a round back handspring, double back, great landing. Nice job on her cat double. Didi told me their team worked very hard this week on floor, really trying to show off their choreography. Philip Ogletree, one of their assistant coaches, made them go out on floor and almost exaggerate all of their dance elements and choreography. Oh, big bounce out on her final tumbling pass, but she keeps it in bounds. Maybe a 1 to 2/10 deduction there for the bounce out, probably more like a 1/10 deduction.
But still a very good night once again for Susan Jackson in the all-around.
She just has incredible power in all of her tumbling. She adds a little extra flair there with the back head spring. She showed off the routine very nicely. The crowd enjoyed it. And here comes that last tumbling pass. She lands just a little bit with her chest down, her feet coming in straight. And this floor is bouncy, and if you don't bend your knees on the landings, you will definitely bounce up.
9.775, and Miranda Smith, who's made a bunch of firsts this season, will make her first beam appearance.
This is the first time she's competing since before going to UCLA in 2006, before coming to collegiate gymnastics. It is a tough event to compete when you haven't been on it in a while. One arm back handspring layout, turns her hip just slightly on the landing, takes a slight wobble. Solid straddle jumps. The athletes need to show an element or skill or dance down low on the beam. And there's her required full turn, slight wobble. There's another big, difficult skill plant here. Front tuck, drops her shoulder. Off the beam, 5/10 deduction.
And that gives LSU effectively the dual meet victory.
Trying to regain her composure here, staying focused. Still the dismount to come. Round off 1.5 twist, big step out. This is her first time competing beam in a few years. You have to start somewhere. She gained some experience here. Here's a look at that front tuck. She leans forward slightly on the takeoff. Her chest is down on the landing, as well as dropping that left shoulder. You're off an inch on this 4-inch wide beam, and you're on the floor.
Her beam debut, 9.075. And the Gators, once again, their woes continue on the beam.
Florida didn't have to count a fall for the first time in a long while, but several crucial mistakes lowered their score. They were about a point lower than LSU on this event, and beam is that make or break event.
Ashley Claire Kearney, she needs a 9.8 to tie Susan Jackson for the all-around, or better than that will give her another all-around title.
She's super explosive. You'll see that in the opening tumbling pass. With clean landing, she can score extremely high.
9.925, the highest she scored this season.
Oh, fantastic job on her double layout, one of the most difficult skills in collegiate gymnastics.
As you saw earlier, she has been perfect on this event before.
Oh, and drops right into a perfect landing on her double pike, and her legs were glued together throughout the entire round off back handspring. Talked about LSU really working hard this week on showing off their floor team. Not only will that help them with their scores, but they felt that maybe that would help relieve a little bit of pressure, allow them to have a little bit of fun out there, and that would help them be consistent.
LSU has had a great night overall as a team. And now Ashley Claire Kearney looking for a great final pass.
Whip half, Rudy, that's a front 1.5, another solid landing, 3 great tumbling passes, great showmanship, fantastic routine.
What a night for Susan Jackson. What a night for Ashley Claire Kearney and LSU. A great performance here for the home crowd.
And that home crowd, they want the perfect 10. They are looking for a big finish here, an exciting night for the LSU Tigers. Beautiful opening tumbling pass, a double layout, 2 rotations in the laid out position. And the second tumbling pass done in the pike position was almost as impressive. Beautiful height and an amazing landing. Final tumbling pass, 2 connected salto elements, a whip half to a Rudy. Just maybe a tiny slide out on the landing into the lunge.
And her teammates react to the score. Ashley Claire Kearney got a 10 from one of the judges. Overall, her score a 9.975. She wins the all-around, her team of 48.925, and she leads her squad to their best score of the season, a 196.8, as they move to 2-2 in the SEC. Lori Strong-Ballard is on the floor with the winners.
Congratulations, Dee Dee, not only on the win, but a season high today. You seem to build some momentum from that first bar routine. You went on to get a season high on bars and beam. How important were those 2 events?
Well, they were crucial because, you know, the team that controls beam is generally the one that wins the meet. And we've been practicing a lot of pressure sets, so we thought it would come down to that.
And Ashley, what a big finish for you tonight on the floor. Almost a perfect 10 to secure the team win and the all-around win. What did you think of your performance there?
I was pretty satisfied with my performance. Yes, it was my season high, but I definitely had some mistakes here and there. You know, I didn't stick my landing on bars. I had a mishap on beam. Didn't stick my vault, so I definitely have some problem areas, but overall I was pretty satisfied with my performance.
Well, it looked pretty strong. And Dee Dee, you said coming into this meet that your team was nowhere near meeting its potential yet. What do you think now?
Well, I think I see our potential. I told Ashley before her last performance, I said, you know, I thought it would come down to the last performer on the last event, and let's go out there and win it, and she did a great job. So, you know, I think this team has a lot of potential, and, you know, it's going to be an uphill climb, and say it again, it's not how you start, it's how you finish.
Well, congratulations on a great night tonight.
Thank you.
Back to you, Bernie.
Halfway through the SEC season, Dee Dee Bro looking for some consistency. She got it from her LSU Tigers, a season best 196.8, as they get an SEC dual meet victory over the 8th-ranked Florida Gators. That'll do it for Lori Strong-Ballard. Bernie Guthers saying so long from the Bayou. Thanks for watching SEC Gymnastics.